Economists are predicting that prices for all food items will increase by 2.2% this year. If you have been following the news about the tariffs drama, about the viruses infecting our livestock, about natural disasters affecting crop production, and just the general uncertainty of it all, today's video will be dedicated to helping you control your grocery budget and save you money on food. Thank you for tuning in to Sisters for Financial Independence. My name is Catherine Agupjan, and here at Sisters for Fi, I cover topics related to money, motherhood, and everything else in between. Like most moms, I am the chief financial officer at home. I am the billing lady. I review our budgets. I pay bills. I am also the primary cook, and I know for a fact that our budgets are being stretched on a daily basis, especially when it comes to food. I hope the tips help, and of course, I want you to let me know if I miss a tip. Leave it in the comment. Tip number 1 for you is to get to know your household. Just sit down for a few minutes and think about your household. What do the kids like? What does your partner eat? What kinds of schedules do you have? Where are you finding friction when it comes to cooking, when it comes to arguing about who should cook and clean up, and all of those things? Figure out solutions for those before you go out and grocery shop. I want to share with you a little bit of our household so that you understand why some of these tips work for us. Your household is going to be a little bit different, so I do encourage and recommend that you listen to the whole video, see what tips might work for you, modify ones that you want to try out. But I definitely recommend that you try out some of these tips so that you can gain some new habits to improve and help you with your grocery budget. Keep in mind that there's no one solution to controlling your grocery budget. It's going to vary depending on where you are in the world, as well as the kind of household you have and the income that you have. But for us, we are a family of 3 and we live in New Jersey, very close to New York. So that in itself already has a built-in cost. We are in a high cost of living, and that means our groceries are going to be high. My husband is an athlete. He does a lot of workouts, and I've started going to the gym. So we are now also focusing our foods to have more protein, good fats, and that adds on to our budget. But knowing that is the case, we are planning accordingly. I am also Filipino, so for me, my palate tends to go towards more Asian food. My husband, on the other hand, grew up in Turkey, so he leans towards Mediterranean food. And we do have to take account the palates that we have, because for me, I am not going to be a big salad person. I would rather have roasted fresh big vegetables. But for him, he loves salads. He would eat that any day with chicken, and he's fine with it. So understanding what your household eats, what your children eat, can help you go a long way in buying food. I also tend not to buy a lot of things on sale because we have a pretty strict ingredient list when it comes to buying food. So unfortunately, even though if something is on sale, if I know that we are not going to eat it, it's not something that we normally would eat, I will not buy it. So that kind of adds on to our cost as well. Be patient with yourself as you navigate how to get your grocery budget in control. Really think about what your family wants, what they like, so that you can incorporate all of those things and ensures that all the food you eat gets eaten and provides nutritious food for your family. Tip number 2 is to never go shopping hungry. Now, most of our moms probably told us this, but the reason is because we don't make the best decisions when we're hungry. Our eyes are bigger than our stomach, and this leads us to pile everything onto our cart. We also tend to rush when we are hungry, leading us to buy food for short-term need instead of an overall meal plan. We might end up buying items that we already have at home. We might buy things because it looks good today. I get it though, we are all busy. Many of us are trying to squeeze in the grocery stop right after work or before the kids go to activities, or we're just wanting to check off our busy day. So I would recommend that you plan ahead for this. If you know you are going to be going to the grocery store and you might not have a meal in you yet, plan for it. put some snacks in your car, like granola bars or a meat stick, and have that handy so that you can grab that before you go. At least that will alleviate your hunger so that you can function properly. My second tip is maybe you grab something small before you actually go shopping. If you go to a grocery store that has a meal section, get something small that you can eat. That way you are not shopping hungry and shopping with a lot of distracted mindset. And the third thing that I would also recommend that you do is maybe you just need to drink of water before you go to the grocery store. Quenching that thirst will allow you to slow your system down and get you to grocery shop without the fog that usually happens when we're hungry. My third tip for you to help you with your grocery budget is to try to go alone. I do love to take my daughter grocery shopping. I think she needs to see how we get our food, how to read prices, what's on our list, and how we make decisions. But more importantly, I want her to see that it takes time and mental energy and money to bring food to our table. Food just doesn't appear in our fridge on a daily basis. We do have to actually go out, pick what we want, and pay for it. The challenge, of course, is shopping is a very overstimulating experience. For an adult and, of course, for children, many of us don't realize how much stress it actually adds on, especially when we add kids to the mix, when we add a partner to the mix. Our attention can get divided up so easily, and it gets hard to focus on the things that we need to buy. You might have one kid asking for a certain snack while another is grabbing something you don't need, and now you've just given up on finding the item that was on sale that you actually needed for your family. Unfortunately, when we are distracted, we don't make the best decisions. So consider if shopping alone might be an option for you. I know many of us don't have the luxury of being able to shop alone, so here is what I would recommend. I would recommend that you carve out time in your calendar to shop alone. This might require that you schedule something in advance with your partner so that you can go to the store by yourself. It might mean that you're going earlier in the day or you're sneaking out when your kids are at practice to get your shopping done. My husband and I normally do this when our daughter is at swim practice. One of us goes to Costco, we study our list, and we time ourselves so that we can get what we needed in the right time and we're not dilly-dallying in the aisles and maybe finding things that we're not supposed to be getting. I'd also have a conversation with your partner. If you think that you are going over your grocery budget because you're distracted by the kids, then this might be the time to have the conversation and talk to your partner and let them know that, you know what, having the kids when I grocery shop is a little bit distracting. Can we do this instead? Can we separate? Can one of us take them to the playground and one of us finishes the shopping? If you are heading to the store with kids, try to see if you can go a little bit earlier so that it's not so busy. I find that if you go right when the store opens, people are generally more helpful. The kids are not yet so overstimulated. And I'd also give each child a job so they have something to focus on. Maybe one is looking for 2 items. Maybe you have one writing lists. My daughter loves writing lists. And when we go shopping, I have her write the list so she has something to focus on. She has something to check off that allows her to be part of the process of buying groceries. My fourth tip is to always have a plan, a written plan. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Whether it's a meal plan or a full grocery list, it's important to know what you need to get so that you are not influenced by all of the nice, flashy packaging that's out there. Planning does take time, but it is necessary. By having a plan in place, you are less prone to impulse buys because your shopping will be more focused. I'd also recommend that you rely less on your memory, but more on facts. Take a photo of your fridge before you go to the grocery store. Take a photo of your pantry so that you know exactly what's in there. instead of you trying to guess if you already have ketchup or not. Do an inventory before you get to the store. I feel like I am a natural planner, but I know that planning may not be easy for a lot of people. So here is what I would recommend. Number one, write down what you want. Write down some of your goals, whether that's to eat at home 3 times a week, maybe that's to reduce your budget by $100, or to only spend $200 on food. Write those things down. The clearer you are, the better for you. You are not going to hit your goals the first time around. A lot of these things take time. You need to build new habits, but the more you write your goals, the more clear you are with the goals you want for your grocery budget, for the food you have at home, for the meal planning and your grocery list, the better. Each week you will tweak it, and then you will have a system in place that you can follow through. The second thing is to know your why. Why do you want to improve your grocery budget? Is it just to save money? Do you also want to eat healthier? Do you want to be able to sit down with your family and enjoy a meal together? Know those whys and make that a part of the values of your household. Saying we don't eat out Monday to Thursday can be a rule that you built in, so that if someone asks, hey, I want takeout, you can say, hey, it's Wednesday. It's a rule. We don't eat out on Wednesdays. Or you also make a rule that Friday's pizza day or Friday's ice cream day. Get those rules and values in place so that you and your family can live with them, and it's easier for you to make moves when it comes to making changes with the food and your groceries. One of the big things when it comes to planning is that you actually have to learn to delegate. You can plan, you can set up systems, and the point of you planning so that you don't have to take everything on yourself. Get your family involved when it comes to planning meals, when it comes to getting groceries. Don't do it by yourself. Your kids will appreciate that they're part of the process. Your partner needs to know the system that is in place so that you both can do things together. I would also recommend that you stop holding in to certain information within your brain. Put them all in some kind of shared document. It can be a shared grocery list. Maybe you have a public meals list that you and your family can look at and can see. That way you are not answering the same questions over and over again. That way you and your partner can be on the same page when it comes to what needs to be bought at the grocery store. If you've ever been a project manager, one of your goals is to make the tasks visible to everyone, so everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing and everyone sees the status. When it comes to your household, maybe some of the questions you're getting is that, what are we eating for dinner? Are we going out? What food do we need at home? Are we missing certain items? Instead of you holding on to some of the answers to those questions, make that public. Make a meal board so everyone knows what's coming up, what leftovers need to be eaten. All of those things take up a lot of mental energy. So transfer those out so that other people in your household knows the answer without having to come to you. Another recommendation I have when it comes to making those lists is to also make a list of all the foods that you know your family will eat. And I'd also recommend that you make a list of easy foods that you can prepare within 30 minutes or less, and you can do it no matter how tired you are. So for me, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup is what we have that is easy to make, and I know that everyone in our family will eat. So we will have ingredients for those. Figure out what those are for your family so that you know you can get a meal out for your family. I have some templates in the description to help you with your food shopping and to help you control your food budget. They're free, so take a look to see if they can be helpful for you. We talked about how distracted shopping can actually lead you to overspend and go over your grocery budget. So then consider using online ordering and curbside pickup if it's available to you. This is a service that has stayed post-pandemic, and I actually like it. I love that the service exists and it can really help you save time, money, and reduce the distraction. I also love that when I add things to the cart, it's automatically adding things up so that I know exactly what the total is, and I also know exactly whether I am within budget or not. What I normally do is that once we run out of things, I put it on the list. If that particular item I know I get from a certain store, I will add it to the cart for that store. So it's already in my list of things to order online. And that way, over the days, as I find more things I need to add, I already have an existing cart and it's easy for me to just place order and pick it up a little bit later on. Tip number 6 is to be careful doing your grocery shopping at retail stores like Target, Walmart, or Costco or similar, because you are exposed to more things and it can be tempting to add non-food items to your cart. We have a Target very close to us, and it's really one of my go-to places to get pantry items, especially for things that we don't need in bulk. But it's easy to get distracted by all the deals inside the store, as well all the deals that pops up on the app. Be aware of that and put a plan in action that for this spending trip or shopping trip that you only focus on food and not get anything else that's non-food items. These stores exist because it makes it convenient for us to buy everything in one place. And convenient has its place, but unfortunately, convenience also leads us to spend more money. So let's be aware of the marketing and the structure of the store so that we know exactly how to get what we want without spending on all of the other extras. We are a Costco family and it's very easy to get a lot of things at Costco, especially a lot of non-food items. So if we do end up buying a non-food item at Costco, when I go to enter our receipts in our budget planner, I will split out the expenses. So if we spend $400 at Costco and $30 was on personal care and maybe $30 was on clothes, I will separate that out so that I am not including that within our grocery budget. It also allows me to see how much we're spending per store. What I normally do at the end of the year is tally up how much I spend at each store. That means I will have a sum of how much we spend at Costco. But because I've also split our expenses from Costco, I know that maybe we spent $1,200 on food versus $30 on personal care. So at least that gives me a sense of whether Costco is still a good deal for us or if we need to lay off going to Costco because we're buying too much non-food items there. We're midway through the video. If this video has been helpful, I'd appreciate a like and a share. Share it with a family member who could use these tips to help control their grocery budget. And if you have a tip that I have not covered yet, leave it in the comments. Tip number 7 is to designate a leftover day at least once a week. This is where you might want to grab everything in your fridge and you put that out on the table. I've seen families do leftover roulette and each person gets whatever they chose on a spin and they eat that. This is a great way to make sure you're not wasting food. I get that leftovers can sometimes have a bad connotation because it's not a freshly prepared meal, but there is still a lot of nutrients in your leftovers. Leftovers may not sound appealing, so I would recommend that if you do have leftovers, replate your leftovers. Take them out of their containers, put them in a nice plate, add something fresh to it so that you feel like you're eating something new and freshly prepared. Now, I think it's also good to be honest with yourself when it comes to leftovers. Leftovers may not be good because they weren't cooked well in the first place. So by the next day, they are dry, soggy, just unappetizing. This is especially true when we are just starting out with cooking, when we are just starting out getting into the swing of things in the kitchen. Some of the things we cook may not be as good. The more you do practice your cooking skills, the more you'll learn how to store the food that you're cooking, the better your leftovers will be. Tip number 8 is to reconsider buying fake food and ultra processed food. A lot of these foods are out there. They're easy to get, they're convenient, and they're labeled with good healthy, and all of these other names. Unfortunately, some of these foods are made with a lot of fake ingredients. You will find chocolate without actual cocoa in it. You will find ice cream without any cream. Reconsider all of these ultra processed food. They don't provide you the nutrients that you need, and they don't satiate your hunger. So you do end up hungry later on, which means you're consuming more. And also think about the future. As you consume more of these ultra processed foods, you will now need to spend more money addressing your health in the future. I would recommend when you get to the end of your shopping trip, just look at your cart, see how much percentage of processed food you have versus whole foods. I know processed foods are convenient, they're easy, but maybe what you can start doing is just increase the percentage of whole foods that's in your cart so that you can slowly switch your grocery budget as well as your palate to eat more healthy and whole foods. Some tips I would recommend: start shopping on the outer aisles of your grocery stores. They typically have your whole foods like vegetables and fruits, your meats, your dairies, and then slowly go into the inner aisles, but focus on pantry essentials that you know are made well. Focus on things that will store well in your pantry but don't have a lot of ingredients, because that will go a long way as you add all of these things together. I'd also consider buying more frozen fruits and vegetables because these last long, they're as nutritious as fresh food, and of course will provide you so much variety down the line. Tip number 9 is for my snackers out there. Let me know in the comments if you're a snacker and what your favorite snack is. I have found that I spend a lot of money on snacks, especially because we also live in walking distance to a Trader Joe's. So what I have done is implemented a budget within a budget. So now when we are doing our grocery budget, I implement a small percentage of that to go towards snacks. I am a sucker for anything that's seasonal, and that means I buy a lot of like these seasonal snacks. I love them, my daughter loves them, but I know that this is not sustainable in the long run. I also don't want to put majority of our budget on snacks. So I will put a small amount, maybe $10 or $15, depending on the week, towards those small snacks so that we can still get them without jeopardizing our entire grocery budget. Tip number 10 is to use ChatGPT or other AI tools to help you with your grocery budget. If you have never done this, this can be a real game changer for you. Your prompts are, and the more information you provide, the better your results will be. Here's a quick example of what I asked it to do. I want a grocery list from Costco. I also shared that we are a family of 3, and I also shared that there's an allergy requirement that we need to be aware of. And from there, it gave me a list of things that we can buy. You can specify your budget in dollar amount, and then also keep going and have it plan out your schedule, get things going for you when it comes to grocery shopping, when it comes to meal prepping, when it comes to creating that schedule for your food needs. I do have a longer video on how to use ChatGPT for your budgets as well as your grocery shopping, and you can check that here. It has more prompts so you can get an idea of what you need to ask, what kind of information will help it bring you the right results. Tip 11 is to become an ingredient household. An ingredient household is a home that stocks ingredients for cooking meals instead of ready-to-eat food. When I was in my 20s, I did not live in an ingredient household. I lived on lean cuisine and pizza. They were the easiest thing for me to do, especially because I was working full-time and going to school part-time. But over the years, as I learned about food, as I learned to cook on my own and cook better food, I learned to become an ingredient household. You don't become an ingredient household overnight. It's a slow progression, but it's a worth it progression, especially as you learn to use ingredients that will be better for your family. An ingredient household is so useful for a family because now you are buying things that can be used multiple times. The first thing I would recommend is figure out things that you like, that you want to eat, and start with those kinds of foods. For me, when I was growing up, I loved to bake. I loved to eat sweets. I would use those cake mixes to bake. Over the years, I've learned that I don't actually need those cake mixes. I can just use flour, butter, eggs, and whatever we have at home to make brownies or cookies. I'd also recommend that as you go out, as you eat food that you love, maybe there's a particular place that you love to eat out, look to see what kind of ingredients they're using, what makes it tasty, what makes you love it, and try to recreate those restaurant foods at home. First time you make it, second time, it's not going to be exactly like the restaurants, but the more you do it, the better you will get at it, the better the use of your ingredients will be, and now you can cook more at home and have it tasty for you and your family. Tip number 12 is to get yourself a good food storage system. You don't need to buy whatever TikTok is trying to sell you, but really look at your pantry and your fridge and figure out a way to organize it that works for you. What's going on there? Are you pushing food to the back and you're just not seeing them, so they end up going to waste? Are you forgetting some things or leftovers? Really look at the patterns of your household, of how you cook, of how your partner cook, and figure out how to organize your food and store your food in a way that's going to make it visible and easier for you to access. Unfortunately, a lot of food gets wasted because we either forget about them, they spoil too fast, or we just aren't storing them properly. I'd recommend you pick up this book from the library to help you with food waste. I also recommend that you start saving some of those glass jars that your sauces come in and use that for storage so that your food lasts longer. And also love these Costco glass containers because they allow you to see exactly what's there. So it allows you to see what kind of leftovers you might have for the week. Tip 13 is to buy things in bulk. Now, bulk buying makes sense for a lot of reasons. They can reduce the unit price per item, but you do have to look at the pricing and make sure they make sense for your family. If you have a large family and you know they eat certain foods, then bulk buying will make sense. But it may not make sense if you have a small family and you don't end up eating all of the food right away. You also want to be able to store your food properly. It's great to buy meat in bulk, but make sure you're dividing that right away so nothing spoils and you have easy access to the smaller portions of meat. If you are going to be buying anything that is a large package, maybe it's flour, it's nuts, it's mayo, you want to be able to store those separately so that you are not opening those large bulk packages on a daily basis. Exposing food to air spoils them faster, so you want to divide them up, put them in a smaller container that you and your family access on a daily basis. Tip number 14, do not be afraid of an empty fridge. We are wired for scarcity, so when we see a fridge empty, it's going to stir up some fear in us. Fear that we might not get food, fear that we might go hungry. But we live in the modern times. Many of us live very close to grocery stores. We can easily go to an app and get food delivered to us. So when you do see an empty fridge, take that as a sign that you have eaten all that you can, that you have not wasted food, and now you can get back to planning and prepping. An empty fridge is also a great time to clean it. It's also a great time to review all of your condiments, anything that has been left over, to see if that should be continued to be used or if you need to replace those. And an empty fridge also makes it easier to store things once you come back from the store. So do that as an exercise. Don't be nervous when you see an empty fridge. Take that as an opportunity to store and organize your food better. Tip number 15 is to rethink all of your meals. For a lot of us growing up, there were certain things that we ate for breakfast, lunch, as well as dinner. But we are in the modern time and we may not have time for all of those. And there's also lots of options now. Rethink the way that you are looking at meals as well as serving meals. You don't always have to eat cereal or toast in the morning. If you have some leftover meat, add some eggs to that, you can have that. You might have a big breakfast, and that means you might not have time or room for lunch, so don't have lunch. Just go to dinner instead. And you might be, at the end of the day, tired, and don't want to cook, but you have breakfast items that you can reach for. Don't automatically assume that each meal has to be a big, elaborate meal that you have to create, the ones that you were used to when you were growing up. Figure out ways to still provide nutritious food for yourself and your family. It doesn't require so much work, so much time and effort. It's still possible to eat well if you're eating breakfast at night. It might be possible for you to not have lunch and only do 2 meals to save your time as well as money. So work with what you've got and figure out a way to just rethink your meals so you're not going crazy trying to make something elaborate. And my last tip for you today is to do a food waste audit every so often. Look at how much food your family wastes. The average American family actually loses around 1,500 per year of food to waste. That's half eaten sandwiches, snacks your kid didn't eat, that apple that got left in the back of that fridge, those French fries that got way too soggy in the takeout container, or those bags of salads that you just did not get to. All of these things, while seemingly small, do add up and affect your budget. Be aware of the kinds of food your family wastes and how to mitigate that food waste. We all lead busy lives, and that can lead us to forget a lot of food that we've bought, which unfortunately defeats the whole purpose of our careful grocery budgeting, because now everything's just going to the trash. That wraps up this video on how to save money on groceries and food for the new year. To help you reduce food waste, I would recommend checking out this video, which contains more tips to make sure that you are not throwing your hard-earned food. And this video can help you if you have other budgeting tips that you need help with. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!